Hello and welcome to Makeshift Minis.
I was interested in making something small scale today, so I'm going to be making a lizard man. It took a bit of work, but I think I got it nearly the size of a normal mini, but I'm really not doing anything new. To make the armature, I start by straightening out a couple paper clips to use for the wire. Using the jaws of my pliers, I coil the wires together to make the frame for the body. Once everything's firmly in place, I bend the legs into shape. I tie the wire for the arms to the main body using a pipe cleaner that I'd stripped. To secure the armature for the neck and tail, I cover the torso in hot glue and then cool it off in water. Unfortunately, it's not cool enough and I burn myself again. Covering the legs in hot glue makes it easier to coat in clay and slightly cuts down on the weight. I use my pliers to pose the lizard man's neck. Once I'm happy with the position, I trim off the excess. Using some low-gauge wire, I make the armature for the bottom jaw. Once it's glued in place, it can be trimmed. I carefully cover the armature for the head in hot glue before cooling it off in water, and I didn't even burn myself this time. Using a bit of hot glue, I attach a toothpick for the lizard man to use as a walking stick. With the base of the mini finished, I can start covering it in clay. I start by covering the arm in clay and roughly shaping it with my fingers before refining it later. Covering the leg was a bit tricky since I decided to make it detridegrade. Covering the tail in clay was more trouble than I expected. Putting a piece of clay over the lizard man's head to make the face might look silly, but it does give me enough material to sculpt. Using a sculpting tool, I push the sheet of clay to shape the mouth. With the base layer in place, I add some details. While I wait for the mini to cure, I begin working on the base. I start by gluing on pieces of cork that I chucked into a blender to make rocks. Using ground cork, I fill in any gaps between the larger pieces. It's a pretty simple way to add stony texture, but I think it works nicely. I add snakes of clay running down the lizard's man back, and then use my sculpting tool to trim off the excess. Using my sculpting tools, I shape the scales on the snakes of clay. It's a tedious process, but it adds a lot to the lizard man. Once I add clay to the tail, I sculpt scales on it like I did on the back. Trying to sculpt a hand smaller than your pinky nail is easier said than done. I wrap small snakes of clay around the hand to form the fingers, which also strengthen the lizard man's grip on its staff. Now that I'm done sculpting, I glue the mini to the base. With the mini finished, it's on to painting. After priming the mini, I start with a base coat of brown. After giving the mini a base coat, I paint the rocks on the base a dark gray. I'm careful to avoid the lizard man's toes and the butt of his spear. Once the base coat dries, I give it a light dry brushing of brown. It's the same color as the lizard man's base coat, so I'm not too concerned if any gets on the mini. The lizard man gets a heavy dry brush of dark green to really bring out the details of the scales. A dry brush of light blue helps highlight the scales and complements the green nicely. With the mini mostly finished, I begin focusing more on the base, starting by dry brushing a lighter gray. The next color I dry brush on the base is yellow. I give my base a dark wash, hoping to make the recesses contrast more with the prominent areas. I finish by giving the base a thin brown glaze. With the mini finished, I carefully paint the rim black, trying not to ruin any of my hard work. With everything done, it's on to the glamour shots. This Mini was an interesting build with some spur-of-the-moment ideas that worked out better than I anticipated. Amusingly enough, when I painted the base brown, I intended to start over, but it worked out better than I thought. Happy accidents and all that.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Take care, be well, and until next time.